Now, I know very few of you here are going to be skiing to the North Pole. And those of you who are thinking about it, you might have just changed your mind. It may say to the starving, fighting a losing battle against drifting sea ice and temperatures 120 degrees colder than today. That sounds crazy. But challenges are challenges. What I learned on the way to the North Pole can apply to your endeavors too, personal and professional. So as I'm telling you my story, be thinking about your own life and your own goals. And also be thinking about yourself as a safety manager and the goals that you have with your team. What is something you want to achieve? Maybe it's some new big initiative at work or some different training practice you want to institute. Or maybe it's simply improving morale. Whatever it is, we all have something. And you might have more than one. I found that once you've chosen that goal, in order to reach that goal, in order to actually get there, you have to do 4 things. You have to commit to the goal. You have to prepare thoroughly. You have to believe in success. And you have to adapt to change. Success is about committing, preparing, believing, and adapting. By the way, this photo here is a picture of me on day 5 of the expedition to the North Pole. The temperature is -50. When I'm warm, I'm happy, and I'm having a good time. We'll talk more about that too. The first step in pursuing your goals is to commit. Commitment is your foundation. Without it, you have nothing. Commitment gives you focus. It unifies you and your team behind the common goal. So the first thing we did was we made a commitment to come back alive and to come back with all of our fingers and toes. Living in 60 below or 50 below for 2 months scared us. It's sort of the Arctic Ocean. So we made safety our #1 priority from the get-go. And then we made a plan to regularly check in with each other to make sure that we were working together well and communicating effectively. And then we made another big commitment. A commitment that no matter what obstacles arose along the way, we would keep moving forward toward our goal. We want to embrace all aspects of the project, the good, the bad, and the ugly, especially the bad and ugly, because we knew that there would be a lot of hard work and hard times of doubt and drudgery along the way. And then we slayed the expedition to start about 3 years down the line and made it a long-term goal. And doing that took all the pressure off and made the massive challenge seem like a learning progression. Looking back, we set ourselves up so well that day. We started with a big, crazy idea. We ended with a commitment to our partnership, a set of realistic expectations, a long-term plan, and a commitment to do it safely. It is so important to commit. Without commitment, everything can get derailed. You risk having half your team invested, but not the other half. Without commitment, it becomes easy to take shortcuts or even quit when the workload becomes too stressful or you encounter obstacles along the way. And without commitment, you are not going to fully prepare, and that is essential. To succeed, you have to commit to preparation and training. I like to say that preparation and training are the expedition. We are responsible for our success and our safety out there by the margins we create with our preparation and training. Pursuing your goals is just a fantasy if you are unwilling to fully prepare. And staying safe out there turns into a crapshoot if you don't fully train your team. So Tyler and I, we hired a trainer, and we worked out with more focus and discipline than we ever had in our lives. We hit the gym for early morning weight training sessions, and we even changed our diets. And then to simulate pulling 300-pound sleds while cross-country skiing, we took it to another level. We pulled truck tires. We did this year-round for 2 years. Here's what it looks like. The whole idea here is to mimic the exact same motions we're going to be doing on the ice. We want to train our specific muscle groups in the same way that they are going to be used on the expedition. So we put our bodies through the ringer, we challenge ourselves, we identify weak spots, and we strengthen them. We really do not want injuries on the ice. It's also excellent mental training, because over time, our minds become accustomed to this snail-like pace and the constant, relentless physical exertion that we're going to be experiencing on the way to the pole. It also creates what I call positive mental imprints or memories. So when we hit the ice, we'd be pulling 300-pound sleds instead of truck tires, but it would feel comfortable. And that familiarity is extraordinarily important to us, because we don't want to think too much out there or become overwhelmed. We just want to do what we were trained to do. So for over 2 years, Tyler and I pulled tires with an expedition mindset. And let me tell you, people thought we were absolutely nuts. I get people coming up to me, giving me fist bumps and high fives. I would cause traffic jams of people honking at me and causing gapper block. I get people coming up to me to practice their car jokes, like, dude, where's your car? Or, can I ride on your tires? Or, are you being punished for something you did to your wife? So I still do polar expeditions. If you happen to be in Chicago and you see some guy pulling tires, you got to come up and say hello. I'm an easy, slow-moving target. And it's up to you to come up with a new car joke, because I haven't heard a lot of car jokes. So we have a 55-day time window to go from land to the North Pole. The distance is about 475 miles. But we're easily going to travel over 500 miles when you take into account all the zigzagging and meandering that we're going to have to do to get around ice obstacles. Tyler and I have done a lot of research into other expeditions, and we found that over 75% of unsupported expeditions to the North Pole fail within the first 2 weeks. So we identified the most common causes of failure: frostbite, injuries, equipment malfunction. But we saw that the biggest cause of failure was that people simply give up. They throw in the towel, and they think that the challenge is just too impossible, and they don't think they can do it. So we had prepared, we had identified our obstacles, but we also knew the only way we were going to make it through the first 2 weeks was by believing in ourselves. Believing in success is that intangible thing that holds everything together. You have to believe in yourself and believe in your team. You have to believe that if you keep moving forward and you stay safe and optimistic, you're going to find a way to reach your goals. But it's not just about belief. It's about how you support that belief. With patience, with rock-solid safety routines, and by celebrating intermediate accomplishments. I'm going to show you a few ways that worked for us on the ice. Here we go.
Ice Armageddon.
What you see here is those gigantic plates of ice pushing up against land because of ocean currents. The ice crumbles and freezes in place, forming endless fields of junkyard-like ice rubble. And that's what we have to travel over for the first 2 weeks and at certain points throughout the trip. But believe it or not, it's actually a pretty fun time. It feels just like our training. Some days we pull our sleds 8 hours through this and are lucky to gain 2 miles north and find a place to pitch our tent. But with a patient mindset, pulling sleds through rubble is fun. I feel like I'm a kid in a maze. I come to a dead end, I stop, I look left, I look right, I clamber about, and I choose the path least distance north. It's 50 below here, and I'm only wearing 2 layers of long underwear and my wind shell. All that hard work and extra body pack keeps me warm. And it's also entertaining work, because we're always making decisions and time passes very quickly. With a patient mindset, we enjoyed this work. We knew what we were getting into. We worked really hard not to focus on the 470 miles standing between us and the North Pole. We just tried to focus on what was right in front of us. Pulling sleds through rubble is dangerous business. People have knocked themselves out from nasty falls or blown out their backs or broken bones. So the way Tyler and I approached these dangers was to be patient and with a lot of focus on the techniques that we had developed in our training. It's important when you're working in a high-risk situation or starting something new to be patient with yourself. We kept telling ourselves to take it slow and safe. We wanted to avoid mistakes or injuries that could happen from going too fast, too soon. We kept telling ourselves to say slow and steady. It turned into our mantra, slow and steady. And one morning, we looked at our thermometer, which is a $3 model that we bought at Ace Hardware. And that red needle was stuck at -60. It was stuck there at the bottom. We don't know how cold it was that day. It could have been a whole lot colder. And for the next 3 days, the temperature did not go above -50. So Tyler and I knew we were in that crux point, that critical time when so many other expeditions had either quit or done something rash or ended up with an injury and failed. So we came up with 3 rules to keep us positive and optimistic and to keep us safe. So here's our 3 expedition rules. Number 1, no complaining. Complaining is outlawed on expeditions. It makes everything more difficult than it needs to be. Number 2 is we like to take a lot of smoke breaks. Now, this comes from Rune, that Norwegian explorer who I worked with on Greenland. And he's a super tough guy, Norwegian Navy SEAL, like a modern Viking. And he also smokes a pack of cigarettes every day. And on Greenland, I noticed anytime we were faced with a big decision or some potentially risky situation, Rune would take a smoke break. And sure, he wanted that nicotine fix, but he also wanted to calm his brain and come at it from a clean perspective. You know, jumping forward or pushing through those times without kind of slowing down can end in disaster. So Tyler and I don't smoke, but we got the point. We wanted to detach from our emotions a little bit, slow down, and choose the safest way to proceed. We also knew that in the long run, that safest way would often be faster anyway. And our 3rd rule, which we also adopted from Rune, is simply say nice things to each other. Now, it sounds like something you'd say to your kids or some elementary school kids, right? But it's true. If you can be supportive and be a positive teammate and keep a good sense of humor, even in the hard, stressful times, you're going to increase your chances of being successful and increase your chances of being safe. I mean, there's been a lot of research on this. There's been random groups of people stranded in some survival situation. And the ones who make it through, by and large, are the ones who stay positive and support each other and stay optimistic. You can see our meager progress here. Those red dots are our campsites. It took us 17 days to cover the first 52 miles. But as we got away from land, the temperature increased, our sleds started to get lighter, and we began to cover greater distances. Another thing that saved the expedition was our ability to adapt to change. And adapting to change is absolutely vital. Our world is always changing. It's a hard lesson sometimes, but change will always be there. You can plan and be optimistic all you want, but at certain points you're going to have to confront reality and adapt. When it gets down to it, you can only change what you can control, which at the most basic level means changing yourself. But it's not easy, because to change is to do something different. Living on the ice, we are always making little adjustments to attack our lazy tendencies and to keep ourselves warm and safe. You know what I mean by lazy tendencies. Those are things that you don't want to do, they're kind of annoying, but you know that you should do them. When we get lazy out there, we get frostbite. We have an anti-macho mentality about this. We call it being smart tough. Because we know that if we ignore the need to make little adaptations and just try to macho our way through it and be like tough and macho our way through, then we're going to end up with blisters, frostbite, and skin infection. I know a lot of expeditions that have tried to be macho, and they end up just having a miserable time, and often they're not successful. So Tyler and I worked really hard to fix little problems before they became big problems. And now we were within 18 miles of the North Pole. We have 1 more hour of sleep, and we decide just to go for it. We're going to make this last day the push, North Pole or bust. So we start out, we're doing really well, we're moving slower, but thankfully the wind slows down too, and so does the drift. And we're very, very careful. We're dealing with a lot of sleep deprivation at this point. We don't want to do something dumb or rash so close to the goal. So we over-communicate about all of our safety items. And then about 14 hours into that last day, Tyler starts to feel pretty out of it. He's had these spells of extreme low energy and nausea. So he takes a few 10-minute naps right there on the ice. But luckily, we keep him moving, we keep him hydrated, and then at 4:30 p.m., I checked the GPS, and we were within 1/4 mile of the North Pole. So we ski the remaining 400 yards, we unclip from our skis, we pull out our GPSs again, and begin walking in circles. It takes us 20 minutes to home in on that elusive point, 90 degrees north. And then we got it, the North Pole. Here it is. It looks like any other place on the frozen surface of the Arctic Ocean. No pole, there's no welcoming party, no signs of Santa Claus, nothing but ice. So Tyler and I had a dream of skiing unsupported to the North Pole. We committed to the goal, we prepared thoroughly, we believed in success, we committed to being safe and having to prioritize the safety every step of the way, we adapted to change, and that's how we succeeded. And that's how you can succeed too. So, what is your North Pole? And what changes and choices are you going to make in order to get there? If you commit to the goal, you give yourself focus. And also you have to commit to prioritizing safety every step of the journey. And once you've committed, if you prepare thoroughly, you give yourself the strength it takes to reach your goals. Remember, preparation and training are the expedition. Once you're on your way preparing, you have to believe in yourself and believe in your team. And support that belief with patience, rock-solid safety routines, and by celebrating intermediate accomplishments. And also know that it's all not going to go according to plan, because it never goes perfectly according to plan. And to succeed, you're going to have to adapt. To succeed, you're going to have to change. Well, that's how I reached my North Pole. If you follow these 4 principles, you can reach yours too. Thank you.